Hello and welcome to episode 103 of Toward a Better Life.
It's a melancholy autumn. Can you feel late summer's breath? Dusk has come a-chasing, the light is fading in the west. She waits outside my window, calling in the forest tongue. The time has come for endings, you know it won't be long. Old Norfolk pine stands sentinel, he watches over my home. His branches all lie silent, now the ravens have all flown. So come, he cries, and rest a while in amongst my boughs. The sky is waiting for you, and there's omens in the clouds. Sleek of wing, white knowing eye, yes, it's you I see. I'm longing to fly with you into eternity. And in the waning dusty days, there's a message in your song. Come lie beneath the fallen leaves and sleep till winter's gone. Light splinters through the trees, as sharp as any thorn, and the prism of your tears are rainbows waiting to be born. So it's time to draw the curtain on life's dark pantomime. All that's left is a suitcase of memories locked in the attic of time. Sleek of wing, white knowing eye, yes, it's you I see. I'm longing to fly with you into eternity. And in the waning dusty days, there's a message in your song. Come lie beneath the fallen leaves and sleep till winter's gone. Always trust your intuition, the raven said to me, for you know the whispers from your heart foretold a prophecy. And you'll see that everything passes, nothing forever lasts. So take the mantle from the gaslight and bury the bones of the past. Sleek of wing, white knowing eye, yes, it's you I see. I'm longing to fly with you into eternity. And in the waning dusty days, there's a message in your song. Come lie beneath the fallen leaves and sleep till winter's gone. Come lie beneath the fallen leaves and sleep till winter's gone. Come lie beneath the fallen leaves and sleep till winter's gone.
This is Kevin Pennell, and that was Spiral Dance with To Dream a Raven from their brand new double album titled 13 Notes. And you heard it right here on Toward a Better Life. It's available on their website, spiraldance.com.au/13 notes. There's going to be a link in the show notes to find yourself a copy, and believe me, I've listened to it. It is well worth it. I'd like to thank everybody for listening and for your continued support for the show, by the way, and thanks for leaving your comments on Apple Podcast. Toward a Better Life podcast features like-minded people sharing their stories, their ideas, and their activities, and you could do it too, and basically is for what we can do to generate a better life individually and collectively. And you can share your prose, your music, your poetry, or storytelling on the show. Just send them to me, Kevin, at towardabetterlife.com. If it's an audio file, send it to me as an MP3 if you would. So, the show started with a selection from Australia's Spiral Dance, and we're going to have another song from Spiral Dance later on in the show. But the liner note for the program and for that particular number, To Dream a Raven, reads, "The raven, a wise messenger, representing ancient wisdom, intelligent, also endings and death. These ebony enigmas inhabit the realm of visions and prophetic whisperers and weave their way into our imagination. As pagans, we tend to spend much of our lives honoring and developing the sixth sense and our psychic perception. But there are times you will be told you are imagining things, conjuring scenarios in your head. This is gaslighting. Always trust your intuition, is what they say. And that said, intuition does play a part in this episode as we explore kinesiology and overcoming burnout with Sal Holden, a kinesiologist, intuitive life coach, speaker, and #1 Amazon best-selling author of Thrive and A Joyful Life. Sal's also an Australian, and she's been personally empowering thousands of women internationally for the last 14 years, overcoming burnout, reclaiming their health, energy, and joy, and creating a better life for themselves, a life that they love. So let's all sit back and enjoy the words of Sal Holden, immediately followed by another selection from Spiral Dance, and that's their new 13 Notes double album again. But let's hear from Sal. Welcome, Sally. Hi. From up here to down under. So you're talking to us from a little bit around Australia, from what I understand.
Totally, Kevin. It's lovely to be here with you today as well.
Yeah. Well, as you can tell, we're kind of off the cuff sometimes, and that's okay. We allow the spirit to flow a little more that way. So, everyone, one of the things that I really would like people to have a little bit better understanding of is kinesiology. Now, that can be a term that's, it's got a broad spectrum of possibilities. It could be anywhere from body working to energetics to things of that nature. And I thought about maybe having Sally give us some insights into kinesiology. And Sally, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then just we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So it's wonderful to be here, Kevin, and really excited to be talking about kinesiology as well, because it absolutely has changed my life in so many ways. And as we were chatting about a little bit before the show, my life journey really, when I started looking at alternative health, different ways of thinking, different ways of being, to really support my life to shift and change, was back in 2008, where I went through a very difficult divorce, as well as my mum passed away shortly afterwards from terminal cancer, and my girls were only 6 and 8 years old at the time, faced with being a single mum and only earning $300 $300 a week. And I just knew at that point I needed to shift and change a lot within myself and dig deeper to find my own sense of self-love and self-worth. And kinesiology was my first stepping stone in that direction, in studying that, in learning that. I was fascinated about how the mind worked and how the body worked together. And I'd always believed that everything was very interlinked, not separate per se, as Western medicine often does. Nothing against Western medicine. I will absolutely use it and everything when I need to. However, I think it looks at the body as parts rather than a holistic functioning organism, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important from that perspective to recognize all of the different factors that were going on or are going on that impact our well-being at times. And certainly that was my case as well.
Yeah. So I am curious, do you do virtual kinesiology or virtual coaching with people online? Is that what you do, or do you do mostly one-on-one, or how does it work with you?
Yeah, so these days, initially I had my clinic for 6 years. I've been coaching and using kinesiology for the past 14 years to support thousands of people in their wellbeing journey. And I have clients all over the world, as well as in Australia, anywhere in Australia as well. So, yeah, I operate solely online these days. I don't have a face-to-face clinic at all. And there's a lot that, yeah, we can definitely do from that. I don't do specific only solely kinesiology sessions online anymore. I was doing that at a particular time. However, it just felt kind of out of alignment for me personally because of the energetics that it took from me personally. I was feeling quite wiped afterwards. So I chose no longer to do it that way. And I guess the biggest factor that I realized with working with people using kinesiology for 6 years was really at the core of every issue was how we actually think. And that was really what stepped me into mindset transformational coaching as well, of really understanding what are our belief systems, what are we saying to ourselves on a regular basis, where we're essentially hypnotizing ourselves into a way of being. And that can be in a positive or negative way. So that was kind of like the real premise, I guess, for shifting into online, which I was obviously very grateful for when COVID come along as well. So
So I think you call your practice Holistic Thrive. Is that correct?
no, my business name is actually Abundant Heart Coaching.
Okay.
But yeah, the book that I've most recently done is Thrive. So that's where the Thrive comes
I
from. But
see. Okay.
yeah.
We're going to come back to that, but really quick, for people that are interested maybe in kinesiology, could you help us to understand it? Because my understanding is, as you've mentioned, it has to do with energetics, it has to do with muscle testing, things like that. But it also, the other side of me recognizes there's a physical aspect to it in body work that you actually
Mm.
work with somebody and do muscle testing to see how muscles are responding to certain therapeutic input from the therapist and or the client at the same time. So the type of work that you did was more energetic. Is that correct?
It was very physical based as well,
Mm-hmm.
because that is really what we call like gets brings awareness to the brain and makes sure that the body is actually aware, because we can be in denial, disassociation. We have so many different coping mechanisms where something may be occurring in the body and the body actually may not have awareness that there's actually an issue, or there can be certain factors with that. So actually muscle testing brings greater awareness to the physical body as to what it is that we're actually working on. But I like to describe it, the best way to really understand it is our body is an electrical system. And that may sound weird to say to people. It's like, I'm not hooked up to power cords and things like that. But when we go get a heart electro, now I'm going to forget the name, but obviously, and the electrocardiogram as well as the electrocephalogram for our brain, that is measuring the electrical impulses, and every single one of our cells communicate with or via an electrical impulse. So when that is interrupted, or that power supply is interrupted, that is where then it becomes a lot harder to hold our muscles in a particular way. And every single muscle on the body is connected to a specific meridian, which goes back into the Chinese acupuncture system. As kinesiologists, we don't normally use needles unless somebody's obviously trained in that, but needles are not used. But the stimulation comes generally from different acupressure points within the body, that also help to unlock or unblock certain pathways that help the energy flow better, therefore the power go through to all of the muscles and have the body in a greater state of well-being and energy flow, where it's restoring that energy flow. But a really good way of explaining it is generally, if you've ever gone to the gym or you've gone to lift weights and you're having a really great day, you feel strong, you feel confident, you feel great within yourself, they're typically the days that you could hit a PB or at least do a really great workout. The days where we feel bad about ourselves, or we're beating ourselves up, or, negative self-talk, those things, it's going to be a lot harder. Like the weights will feel like a lot heavier simply because we haven't actually got the energy and the power flowing to our muscles that we normally would because of the emotional interruption to that power supply.
Oh, okay. So if I'm having emotionally, if I'm having a bad day and I go to the gym, the weights really aren't any different from 20, 40, 50, 100 pounds. It's my body and my mind are not saying, I really don't want to do this. Can we do something else? Can we go for a walk?
Totally. State of resistance will do it every single time. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's the emotions sometimes that get in the way. Obviously, there can be nutrition, there can be trauma, there can be shock, there can be inflammation that's happening through either our thoughts and stress, or other things that are occurring within the body. And kinesiology is such a beautiful way of finding out exactly the root cause of what's actually going on. And sometimes things can even go back to in utero, when we were just literally a fetus inside our mothers. And if our mums have taken in a big stress or had a lot of stress at that particular time, that can be really, really difficult as well, because the baby takes on board those things, or can even develop certain beliefs at that particular time because of what the mother is actually feeling through those stresses. And they've actually proved that a fetus will actually develop larger adrenal glands if the mother is living in a constant state of stress, so that the baby is more adapted to the environment that it's been born into. So we're very adaptable as humans. Yeah.
That's wild when you think
Isn't
about it.
it?
That it kind
I
of goes
know.
along with the idea of playing classical music to your child when it's in utero, and
Totally.
having
Absolutely.
good conversations instead of arguments. So it's not because I just had someone on recently, and we've talked about it before, that the first basically from birth until 6 years of age or 7 years of age are considered as air quotes formative years, and yet what we're hearing now is it actually predates the date of birth, and it can go much further back, months back. So that communication that you have with the child, and the thing about mom even caressing the child, and dad caressing the child while it's still in utero, and
Mm,
that says a lot about how that child's going to be. Is it going to feel benevolent? Is it going to feel compassionate? Is it going to feel love? Or is it going to feel fear, hatred, all those things because of what it is sensing outside?
absolutely. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so if someone were looking for kinesiology from the standpoint of the work that you're talking about, I'm not talking about the body work type of physical therapy. I'm talking about kinesiology of muscle testing and so forth to see if something is right, something isn't, doing the
Mm.
acupressure and so forth. What would you tell someone if they're looking for someone to help them in the area of that kinesiology, if they're listening to this program? What are some guidelines?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to work with somebody that you feel potentially drawn to, or an intuitive sense of, this feels right for me. I think it's really important to work with somebody that has done a lot of work on themselves, meaning that they're an embodied practitioner as well, because again, the whenever we're muscle testing, there's a combination of energies. It's my energy with the client's energy as well. And so a kinesiology session can only ever be as clear or as powerful as the practitioner has done the work on themselves as well to that degree. So I think that that's a really, really important aspect. But the most important thing is that you feel a sense of trust, you feel a sense of rapport with this person, and obviously, you know, that they have your well-being in their most utmost front of mind as well, and that you feel comfortable with that. And if you've had an experience where perhaps you haven't had that, I think it's really important, like, to not necessarily throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you know, maybe to have a look and find somebody else that could be a better fit for you. But generally, most people, I think we all have fairly good BS detectors these days in terms of, pardon the language, and it's like, you know, in terms of actually really identifying or getting a feel for somebody, and the work that they do. I think somebody that's even brand new into kinesiology can be very powerful when their intention is coming from the right place, as well as, you know, somebody that's obviously been a therapist or like a practitioner for a very long time as well. Like, I think there's benefits to both. Yeah.
So it's that sense that you have when you go and see the person, and if you sense that this person is really about helping you as opposed to thinking, okay, here's another $125 in my pocket.
Absolutely. It's
And
very much like around heart-centered. And I think, again, I'm probably a little bit biased in the field, but I do think anybody that actually does get into kinesiology, certainly the kinesiology that I do, is very much heart-centered and very driven to be supportive and helpful for others, but also has typically been on their own self-development journey or journey of healing themselves in some way, shape, or form as well. And like I mentioned, I do believe that's a really important factor with this. Yeah.
are there some questions that you could think of that if you were a potential client and were going to try and join in with a kinesiologist?
Yeah, I'd ask them like how long basically have they been working with people? Typically, what have the results been, or the people that they've worked with, and what have they created or achieved together through that work? That can be very helpful just in understanding. I think overall, and one of the things that I certainly used to do is take a lot of time to really understand what somebody is coming to me for, and being really clear in myself as a practitioner as to whether I can actually really help somebody with
Mm,
that or not, or whether I'm just saying that I can, but I don't actually feel really 100% confident that I can. And so again, like asking those questions, like how do you specifically feel that you could help me, and what time frame? And again, sometimes that is very variable. It is hard to say, well, yeah, like one session's going to cut it. Generally not.
mm-mm.
And I always used to say to a lot of my clients, it's you know, one of those things, if you want to keep growing and progressing and things like that, having regular sessions rather than just coming in a crisis can definitely be a lot more helpful to the body, because then we get to work on bigger stuff that helps people really evolve and grow and flourish, as opposed to just getting out of the immediate crisis and then going okay and then falling into another crisis as well. So again, it all depends on what somebody's wanting to achieve out of the sessions.
So what's a good number of sessions would you say? Because in my experience and even the experience of some others that I've talked with, the magic number seems to be somewhere anywhere from 3 to 6 sessions. You can
I,
usually see some sort of a change that is
Yeah,
tangible.
substantial. Yeah, absolutely. I was intuitively thinking about four. So yeah, bang on the money there.
Yeah.
Again, it is all really subject and variable to how committed somebody is. Generally, as a practitioner, we're working on the willingness and anything that could be blocking them from actually following through for themselves as well, because sometimes there can actually be side benefits to staying the same or to not changing as well. And so we want to be really clear when working with somebody that they are 100% committed to their own healing process as well. So often that can be even just one session in itself is bringing awareness to any other side benefits or any other things that could be getting in the way of them actually following through for themselves as well. So, but typically, definitely, you know, change within 3 to 6, like some tangible specific change within that period. And then as we're all human, and many of us have thought the same thing for many years of our life, typically longer lasting change can actually be like a lot longer process over a 6 or a 12 month, where somebody's really wanting to change a significant part of their life, whether it be their health or relationships or a pattern that's playing out for them. I think because we're so used to, even though we may have the new awareness, the pattern may still play out. And I've been working on some things for years and years and years. And whilst the pattern is very tiny now, it still surfaces and it's like, oh, there it is again. So I think it's important to remember that we're very human. And the more that we have that self-awareness, the more that when we're working with somebody, they can help us with those blind spots as well, because that is the challenge as humans. If we're not aware, we can't be brought to a choice point. Whereas there is no choice if we're not aware that we're even in the pattern or we're playing out the pattern again. Whereas the moment we become aware, now we have a choice point. We can either keep doing it or change it. And I think that that's really powerful.
Yeah. And so the tangible part, and you said another word, and I think it's ideal as well. But when I'm talking about, I would say a measurable change, from 3 to 6, and keeping in mind that's a measurable change. That's not you are all done.
100%, absolutely. And I think it's good for context, because
it can take a while, and that it's pretty much the same for a lot of different changes that we make. To say, well, they come in, hey, can I feel 100% better today? As soon as I leave your office, or as soon as I leave your clinic, is that potential there? Absolutely, it is there. Is it likely? Probably not. You just have to realize that. That's number one. Number two is, and I think I hear it already, is something that I haven't said in a while in the program, is that when I would enter in with a relationship with a client, I would say, you'll welcome in, blah, 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 glad to have you, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, so we need to have an understanding here that I see us working together to help you feel better. And there's a 40-60 combination here of care. I do 40% of the work. Do you want to guess who does 60? And that usually weeds out the people that say, well, I just want to feel good for a little while. Or do you really want to change? If you really want to change, you need to be in that 60%. That makes sense?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And there's, the wanting versus willing. It's, we might want change, but are we actually willing to commit to the process of whatever that takes until it actually happens and occurs? And I think often, that means bumping up against our biggest fears, some of our biggest emotions. I know for years, like I did not like my emotions at all. I would do anything to avoid them because, again, as a child, like I'd been taught that our emotions are wrong. So, even just opening to our emotions can be creating like a huge sense of change for people as well. But I typically have a very transparent conversation with my clients as well. And it's like, just letting you know, like I am not a magic quick fix bullet or magic pill that, one session and you're all good to go. Like I never want to set anybody up that way. And certainly it's not been my experience in my healing. And I apply processes to myself regularly and do a lot of inner work. I've spent over multiple 6 figures in healing, coaching, training for myself as well. And it's an ongoing process of awareness and awakening and evolution, I think.
Yeah. So you say that you've kind of moved away and you're doing a lot more coaching work these days. And so you mentioned about how you could see it kind of melding together. Explain that to us a little bit, how you're working with kinesiology and coaching.
Yeah. So because of, I guess, the depth of intuition that I have through working with people through kinesiology and really getting a sense and working with thousands of people over the years, I've really discovered like a lot of patterns. And whilst we all have our own unique journey and our own unique flavor, a lot of those patterns often play out and they can be a lot within our belief system. And that was what I really noticed with kinesiology, was that everybody that was coming, whether it be a health issue, whether it be a relationship issue, whether it be a self-confidence or a self-love issue, it all started from the beliefs that they'd they had on board and that they were telling themselves on a regular basis or thinking to themselves on a regular basis. And I was no different to that. I had all of, so many negative beliefs about myself that impacted my sense of self-worth, my sense of self-love, which then just permeated every other area of my life as well. And I guess that's where I really was like, oh my gosh, this all starts with our thinking. And so if we can really shift our thinking, that actually will create change in every other area of our life, our health, our well-being, our happiness, our relationships, what we tell ourselves we can and can't do, or how we're living essentially, or our lifestyle, or what we believe that we're capable of or not. So that was what really, I guess, really spoke to me in terms of creating really, really substantial shifts and changes in our life through that transformation of our mind and what we're telling ourselves. And it can be an adversary, or it can be our best support. And it's up to us, I think, in really understanding that the mind was built to protect us. So it's very fear-based. And the more that we can align that with what I feel like is our most authentic self, whether that's our soul, our spirit, our heart, whatever people want to call it, but that higher part or that larger part of ourself, the more we align our mind with that, then we're actually going to get to experience a much greater feeling of happiness and connection and alignment within ourselves overall.
Mm. So you do a lot of work online
Mm.
all of your work, I guess you do online now.
Yeah.
And one of the links that's going to be in the program is Linktree. I think it's Linktree, Sal Holden. It talks about some various things here that are very thought-provoking and very interesting to think about, like Grab Your Body of Thrive Here, Thrive Overcoming Burnout, free Facebook community. And it just goes on, all kinds of really cool stuff. But a lot of it points to something that we talked about, almost a couple of years ago, a few years ago now, was burnout
Mm.
and how people don't understand that you can walk away for something for a week and come back and you feel better. The
Oh,
other
God,
one
yeah.
says you can walk away from it and you
Oh,
can come back a week later and it still feels the same.
absolutely.
The one is the case where you are pretty much in control of it and you can overcome it, but the other one is environmental as far as where you might be working, where you might be doing whatever it may be, but it is literally sucking the life out of you. And so that both of those forms can be very debilitating in one's progress toward a better life is to overcome some of those things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually went through significant burnout myself in 2020, and that was why I really became passionate about bringing people to a greater level of awareness, because I guess the biggest factor that I realized going through that myself was literally how much our mindset and our mind and mental health and emotional well-being was impacted the more we became physically compromised. So the more exhausted we become, the more activated our mind becomes in trying to protect us. So it's like an injured animal laying underneath a tree, trying to rest, trying to heal, but it's going to be hyper vigilant in its environment. It's not going to be able to kick back and go, oh, it's a beautiful day. Look at the blue sky. It's so lovely here, and just chill and relax, because it is compromised. It becomes even more hypervigilant. And that becomes like this downward spiral that a lot of people experience with their mental health and emotional health with burnout as well. So the more burnout we become, the more fearful, the more anxious we become, which then creates even greater cortisol and stress levels and exhaustion, where it really can be a very tricky place to get ourselves out of. And I applied all my tools and strategies and did everything. And that's why I ended up writing my book, because I was throwing everything at it. And I was like, right, I'm in the trenches of it. I may as well experiment. And that's what I've always done, is experiment with what works, what doesn't work,
Hmm.
and then share what has worked for me with others and what I found significantly to be helpful. But burnout is definitely to that point where, like, doesn't matter how much sleep you're getting overnight, all of those factors, like it is just, it's so debilitating when you end up going through significant burnout. And
Yeah.
there's varying degrees of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the signs of burnout from your perspective, Sally?
I think craving a lot of sugary things, high carbohydrates, salty foods, things like that that give a quick hit of energy. Definitely craving stimulants like caffeine to try and keep us awake. Generally, insomnia, weirdly enough, and it also sounds strange, but insomnia is often a symptom of burnout simply because the racing, feeling so wired but tired, and not being able to sleep because the nervous system is constantly in that fight flight response. It can also be loss of focus, inability to think clearly, memories affected, cognitive function impacted, brain fog, just lethargy and exhaustion. A lot of women also come to me and just say, "Oh, I just need to be more motivated." And so it's this loss of motivation or finding things a lot harder to do than, where they may have easily done those tasks previously, particularly for very self-motivated, self-driven people when they find themselves really procrastinating, or really just finding it difficult to get things done during the day. And I often describe it like wearing concrete boots, walking through a boggy marsh, because everything feels heavy and hard
Mm.
and shut down. Like it is so difficult to get things done when we're in that state of burnout. And essentially it's because the body has gone into dorsal vagal shutdown or the freeze state as a way of trying to conserve energy because it is has so little energy actually left. So it's very compromised. So generally they're the biggest things, but are really loud inner critic, feeling overly negative, withdrawing socially. There's a lot of symptoms that can come out as a result of burnout. Feeling really teary, unable to cope,
Mm.
loss of capacity. Yeah.
So am I hearing it correctly? Vasovagal shutdown?
Yeah, the vasal, yeah, shut
So
down. Yeah.
if somebody were to look that up, they could figure it out.
Or sorry, Vegas dorsal shutdown. Sorry. I was like
Okay.
confusing myself after what you said.
Okay. Yeah. So basically you're shutting down. That's the bottom line of it
The
is
nervous
you
system shutting down. Yeah,
and
because it
I
is so compromised.
yeah,
Mm.
and I think your illustration is spot on. Concrete boots and a mug in a marsh.
It's
That's
hard.
just no. That's
Yeah,
impossible. Virtually impossible.
it
Wow.
is. Yeah.
So does your book Thrive, does it kind of lend itself more toward overcoming the burnout, or is it inclusive of maybe some of your kinesiology insights? Or tell us a little bit about Thrive.
So Thrive overall, I think it's a great guidebook for anybody that's actually wanting well-being overall or wanting to improve their health and well-being from a really holistic perspective. So my main focus is on overcoming burnout because it was literally, and it's called Thrive, Overcome Burnout and Reclaim Your Energy and Passion for Life. So it's kind of like moving people from that burnout kind of blah, loss of motivation, just feeling lethargy, apathy, perhaps, because all of those go hand in hand with burnout as well in terms of the emotional experience, and giving them a step-by-step process. Because what I find is most people try and do a whole lot of things all at once, overwhelm themselves, and because they're lacking in energy, then they feel like they're failing. They feel like this is not working and then end up giving up and then just repeating that cycle. And every single time they go through that cycle, there's less and less hope available to them that they can actually heal and get better again. So one of my main philosophies, and I think this is true with all of life, is often less is more. So when we
Mm.
put less pressure on ourselves, just focus on maybe one small, tiny improvement, like drinking an extra glass of water a day, or just going for like even a 5 minute walk if like a 20-minute walk feels overwhelming. Like it's bringing it back to a level that feels doable. And particularly when somebody's going through burnout, that often is a very small amount compared to their previous capacity. And even for me, I'd done a 42K walking marathon in 6 hours 2 weeks prior to going through burnout, and I could barely walk 10 minutes after I went through burnout for initially, like when I was first in it. So less is more, and focusing physically, mentally, or sorry, yeah, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So connecting you back into yourself again. What do you love? What brings you joy? All of those
Mm.
factors. And I give tons of tools that have come in from kinesiology, mindset training, like all sorts of different ways of looking at healing ourselves through those four different lenses.
And what brings you joy? That's a biggie. And you've touched on it briefly, and it seems to be almost to the point of being a mantra of late, and that is getting back into nature and talking about walking. Go outside, enjoy the woods. Go outside, enjoy the forest. I believe it or not, it's something I'm going to put into my blog here the next couple of days. I believe it was a prompter for me, but yesterday I went out and I have a car that it's a classic car that needs to be started up on occasion to keep the fluids running, so to speak. And I went out there and I saw the most beautiful of all things, the most beautiful mantis that I have seen, and she was huge. I've never seen one. She had to be every bit of 7 inches long, maybe 8 inches long. But in Australia, that's probably an ant by some of the stories I've heard. But
No, that's
um,
still big here.
but it was a phenomenal experience, and I took like 5 or 10 minutes with an insect when you really think about it, but just to connect with something of the natural world in a very special way
Mm.
can relieve so much of that and release so much of the burnout. And it will actually help probably the endorphins and everything else kick up in us and say, ah, I could feel better now. I
Mm.
might even be able to do something about some of this. So, yeah. Sally, how do people get in touch with Sally? I mean, I jumped on there because, like I said, it's going to be in the show notes, everyone, as far as the link is concerned. But outside of that, how do people get in touch with Sally?
Definitely, they can go to abundantheartcoaching.com for the website, as well as I think I've also got that in the link tree links as well. So if people just go to the link in the show notes, they will be able to find that website in there. And there's a contact form in there. That's probably the best way for people to reach out to me. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, all the socials as well. But yeah, if they go to that link tree. I think that's the easiest. I've got all the things in there. I've got the links for my socials in there as well if somebody's wanting to connect and reach out. Yeah.
It looked like a very good link tree. There's all kinds of really cool stuff in there, everybody. And definitely look at that show note that's there because it's very informative and very helpful. Yeah.
Mm.
So what does Sally do to create a better life for herself?
Absolutely. I literally journal every single day into what feels like alignment or what I ask myself really, really powerful questions. And I think that that's a huge part of it. I take really good care of my physical body, generally, definitely going for at least a 20-minute walk outside, sunshine, sunlight. Oh, not always sunshine because we're not guaranteed that, but definitely out in the sunlight. I think getting early morning sun is absolutely critical to our well-being, and particularly if we are on our phones or screens a lot, like really, Dr. Jack Cruz covers a lot of that in his podcasts and things. Really, really amazing information in how important sunlight really is for our well-being. So that's really important to me. I generally do a cold plunge each morning.
Hmm.
I love to do meditation. I have a variety of things. I actually created my happy list, and so it's a combination of things that I can do with other people. I can do by myself. I can do with like it out without any cost involved. And then obviously, there's other things that I can do as well that do have a cost involved. But I think creating one of those things for ourselves is really important as well, because it's almost like what is going to elevate me or bring me a greater emotional state. Because when we are feeling more connected, as you mentioned, even just by connecting into nature, that is where we generally can tap further into our intuition, our wisdom, our inner guidance, and things like that. So for me personally, it's figuring out what I want, doing any belief work that needs to clear any beliefs that is in the way of that, like i.e. I can't do it or I don't know how to do it or any of those factors, and keep on keeping on, as a chop wood carry water. It's like keep applying the process, keep figuring out what is supporting me, what's working well for me, what's not, and keep tweaking that process. And I think even just a 1% change of asking ourselves, what could be even 1% better for me today, or a 1% improvement for me today? And when we apply that, like that's 365% change over a
Hmm.
12-month period, which is significant. And I think sometimes we discount how much those little decisions really do impact our life long term over 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to share with our folks today before we go?
Just really take time to celebrate yourself, celebrate your own amazingness. I think we're so hard on ourselves as humans, and I think that self-love is the foundation for creating improvement in every area of our life. When we try to do things from a place of feeling that we're not enough, I feel that that is when we feel constantly pushed, or it's like we get on this hamster wheel that feels impossible to get off. Whereas when we do it from that platform of self-love, I feel that it's a very solid place where we're taking action as a demonstration and an expression of our self-worth and self-love. And I feel that that creates tremendous change in our life in a really positive way. And huge thank you to you, Kevin, for having me here today.
Thank you
And to
so
all the
much.
listeners as well.
Thanks so much, Sally. And enjoy your day and go have some fun. Go walk.
Done my walk, done my cold plunge, done my workout today. So tick, tick, tick. But yes, definitely have some more fun later on.
There's an old river red gum standing close to the water, roots down deep into the bank abound, and a ripple of song from the river god's daughter. Follow the lyric to where your story is found. She calls, come step into the shallows, leave your shadow behind, for there's darkness below. She'll sing you a charm, she'll sing an enchantment. Step away from the past and dive into the flow. Let it all wash away. Let it all wash away, cleansing your soul. Take you between the old tree roots, deep into the bank, between water and earth. Come face the challenge of all that is shifting. Give yourself to the river, give yourself to rebirth. Come into the womb of magical imagining, a slick salty path to the cauldron within, a sea that's awash with bright inspiration. What was broken, let your journey begin. Let it all wash away. Let it all wash away, cleansing your soul. Let it all wash away. With the pull of the moon's wax and wane, vision unfolding and changes upon you. For the dark goddess has spoken your name. With invisible strings the wind harp comes calling, the sun warm on your skin where you lay. Drink from the cup filled with liquid sunlight and the she oak whispers, 'tis a new day. Let it all wash away. Let it all wash away, cleansing your soul. Let it all wash away. Let it all wash away, making you whole. Let it all wash away. Let it all wash away, cleansing your soul. Let it all wash away. Let it all wash away, making you whole. Let it all wash away. Let it all wash away.
And that was Spiral Dance once again with their song Let It All Wash Away from their latest album, 13 Notes. Thanks again to Sal Holden and Spiral Dance for their contributions to the episode. All of their contact information can be found in the episode show notes. If you're seeking insights and advice on how to create a better life for yourself, please do send me a note, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com, or visit my website, towardaBetterLife.com. It's got links there for all my podcast episodes, blog entries, ways to enhance your spiritual journey, and a few products along the way to help you and assist you on your journey, including the opportunity to buy a book of mine, Two Feathers Spiritual Seed Planter. I also offer Toward a Better Life virtual and in-person sessions. Just reach out. I'll be more than happy to contact you back. As always, if you enjoyed the episode, please do follow and subscribe to Toward a Better Life through your favorite podcast platform, and be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcast. It helps the podcast and allows us to reach more and more people. If you got any questions, or if you'd like to share a story, music, prose, and if it's an audio file, please send it to me as an MP3. I'm more than willing to listen. And if you want to be my guest, please write to me, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com. That's kevin@towardaBetterLife.com. Until next week, do enjoy your journey toward a better life.